Hello, Sales Nation. Welcome to the Salesman Podcast. I am your host, and on today's show, we have Jon Ferrara, founder of Nimble.com, which is a socially smart CRM. On this episode, we're talking social media, social selling, the impacts that social selling, social media has on just society, and Jon's views on the future of some of this. We also talk about CRMs. I used to hate them until I started using them more effectively in my own business over here, the podcast and everything else that we do. And Jon explains what life was like before electronic and computer-based CRM. So we should all be super happy that that's what we've got now and that's what we're using. It sounded horrific before those days. Yeah, you can find out more about Jon over at nimble.com. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump into today's show. Hi, Jon, and welcome to the Salesman Podcast.
Will, I'm so excited to be here with you today. There's nothing I like better to do than to inspire and educate and empower other people to achieve their passion, plan, and purpose in life.
Good, man. Well, we're going to get on just fine here. And obviously, we're going to talk about Nimble. We're going to talk about a few other things as well. What I want to start the show with is, and I've been in this in the past where I've hated CRMs or any acronym that has been software where I have to input data and I've never, at the time, I felt that I didn't get any value out of it, and it was all for sales management. It was a pain. It was stopping me selling. And we're going to talk about Nimble a little bit later on and how that's changed. But I want to start at the very beginning because I know you are the man in this industry. You've been there from the very beginning. What was life like before a computerized CRM for salespeople? How did they manage data?
Well, because I was in sales before there was the term CRM, SFA, or market automation, before there was Outlook or Salesforce, or really literally any tool that integrated contacts, email, and calendar, let alone sales and market automation, I can tell you exactly what happened. It was about 1987. And I was working for a technology company, and I was working in a district office, and they gave me what they called were leads. A lead was essentially a sheet of paper that they paid somebody for with a list of the names of the local IT department contact people. And I basically had to cold call them and make notes on that piece of paper. And then as I got a hold of somebody, I'd put that appointment in my what I call the day timer. It's a leather-based thing that you put in your jacket that has your appointments and your to-dos and the phone numbers of the people you're connecting to. Then you go out there and you meet with the people and you make notes on another piece of paper, and then you go back to the office and you have this pile of pink while you're out slips that essentially is communications from your team members and your managers about people who are trying to connect to you and issues that are going on. And then once a month before the night before it is due, you do something called a forecast, which is a spreadsheet that you try to remember all these things that you're doing and who you're doing it with and what your pipeline looks like. So basically manufacturing can try to forecast what they need to build in order to meet demand. And this was sales automation at its best.
And did it work? Because that's an important thing to note from that. Because it sounds like a massive pain and inefficient, but did it work on the back end?
Well, I think that human beings have always figured out how to make things work, right? If you think about the original concept of tracking sales or production, the Sumerians used stone tablets to tally the amount of wheat that they had, and they would basically bring the extra wheat to market to sell it. And that was early sales automation. And so, I mean, if you think about it, the early people used something called a Rolodex, but really smarter people would use something called a index card system. And the index card system actually worked pretty good. It was a 6x9 index card, basically a piece of paper that you'd put the name, address, and notes on the person you're connecting to, and then you put a recall date and next action on the card, and you'd file it based off that date. So you always knew when you got in the office who you should be following up on, and that was organized. And yes, that does work, but putting things on a bunch of scraps of paper doesn't work. And so you need something that is somehow organized. A friend of mine who was in sales back in the day used a spiral notebook, and he essentially just wrote everything down, and he could go back and refer to it. But ultimately, human beings don't scale. And there's a thing called a Dunbar limit, which says, and actually it's an English chap that figured that out, Dunbar. You can Google it, but essentially you're limited to the amount of people that you could actually manage in your head. And it's between 100 and 200 for every human being. And it's limited by the size of your cortex. And I think we all have about the same size.
Well, this is where gossip starts to come in, isn't it? How you can remember and acknowledge people who are outside that kind of number by gossiping about them and telling stories rather than I know John and he lives here. And that's why a lot of people, and I try, I probably do this to a certain extent with some entrepreneurs that I follow, perhaps, but a lot of people spend a lot of time watching really crappy reality TV, and it's all because of the Dunbar number, and you are wired to want to know what's going on with these individuals. It's crazy.
Well, I really think that what we're all wired to do is to connect with other human beings. I think that we're addicted to the emotion and the connection vibration that occurs when you're connecting to another person. Will, you and I have never met. In fact, this is the first time you and I have talked, but I'll argue that there's a vibration between us, an understanding of a shared commonality of passion, plan, and purpose that's creating a connection, a bond that will last beyond this call. What do you think?
Mhm. I agree, and I from that perspective, and so this is interesting. I'm not sure we're going to go here, but I would go out my way to make that happen as well because I feel like, well, look, Mark, John, we started talking then, and initially, instantly, you came across and you give a whole bunch of interesting stories. So that massively intrigued me and what makes me want to know more about what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think that that is the connection that bonds people. And it's not necessarily about selling them something. It's
Uh-huh.
about building a connections around you that'll help you achieve your passion, plan, and purpose in life. And they're not going to remember you because you send them a monthly or quarterly email about how great your products and services are. They're going to remember you because you share areas of commonality, that you've earned their intimacy and trust, that you set yourself up as a trusted advisor who can help them become better, smarter, faster, and that they remember you because of the stories you tell or because of the commonalities you might have in food or cooking or children or mountain biking or music or whatever it is. This is how we connect. And this is why social media is so powerful, because we're all addicted to the little red lights of people liking, commenting, connecting with us. As human beings, we're desperate for connection with other human beings. That's why we share so much shit and look for the little red lights and notifications that says, yeah, somebody's listening to you, somebody cares. And this goes back, if you think about it, in history, to the answering machine that we used to have in our home. Basically, the little LED that would blink and the number that was greater than some, 1, 2, or 3. The old AT&T answering machine that we had in my home when I was in high school, that was my connection to the outside world because we only had one phone. And on a Friday night, if that light wasn't blinking and the number wasn't greater than 3, I knew I was in trouble for the weekend. And so basically, I think that you can even go back further. When you got home, were there envelopes in the mail, right? Is somebody reaching out to you? And so I think that if you could understand human need and you can serve it by inspiring and educating people, by touching their souls and helping them grow, you could build your own gold mine.
So, on a wider scale, not just reserved to sales, do you think that social media and I was going to use the word overwhelm then, but that's obviously skewing the answer potentially. Do you think all this is a positive thing for just humans in general?
Well, like any addiction, right? A cup of coffee in the morning is nice, but 8 in the day is a problem. A glass of wine at the end of the day with your meal is nice, but 15 of them is a problem. And so, sharing your passion, plan, and purpose digitally across a variety of social platforms helps you to build a network that's global that will help you power your dreams. But if you sit there all day long feeding the thing in order to grow your network so you have more followers, it's a problem.
Okay, and you mentioned that passion, plan, and purpose a couple of times now. So it's obviously something that you're thinking a lot about. Is this something that salespeople should put out there publicly? and it gives then people an opportunity to connect with them on a more human level rather than this horrible corporate level that I hate so much. And we talk about on the show a bunch of times. I mean, for example, we've got a blog post out now. It's had over 250,000 page views, and I don't know, the title's along the lines of why I personally am in sales. And I'm in sales because it is a high leveraged job where you can put in more work to bring in more money. And I want to retire and be financially free early. Obviously, I'll still work afterwards, but that's my plan, I guess, and purpose and what I'm passionate about and why I do these podcasts and why we work with brands and why we do everything else that we do. Is it a healthy thing then for the B2B salespeople listening to be putting out content like that to share a little bit about their passion, plan, and purpose? And do you think that does resonate with buyers?
Abso-friggin-lutely. The thing is passion, plan, and purpose can be personal and it could be business. And I think you should have both, right? I'm passionate about music and food and history and astronomy and archaeology and other things. And I share my passion, plan, and purpose with others, and we connect across those areas of passion. And those connections are stronger than the business connections. So I also have business passion, plan, and purpose of entrepreneurship, startups, technology, sales and marketing, relationship management, and I connect with people on that as well. But when you connect on a personal level, it's deeper and richer. And if you can connect the two, they serve each other, and it's 1 + 1 is 4.
Okay, and for salespeople listening to this now who are getting excited, can hear that you're obviously excited about this, Jon. What's their first step? Is it to create a little blog and start to write about some of these things and invite their customers to interact with them on it? Is it to just get on Twitter and to start communicating in different ways and talking about these things? Or is that irrelevant and all that matters is just putting it out there and again becoming an individual?
Well, I kind of like the latter, but I'm going to give you a recipe because I think that we all need recipes in order to make our first meals. After you make the meal a few times, then you can make your own recipe. If your listeners think about the fact that there's a digital river running outside of their office, home, wherever they're at, and that if they just drop lures into the water to inspire and educate other people about their passion, plan, and purpose, that people will bite on that and they could reel them in and turn a connection, a conversation, a relationship into a measurable, mutually beneficial outcome. And notice I don't say sale, because ultimately I think sale is a 4-letter word, and I think that a measurable, mutually beneficial outcome could be something that maybe it's not a sale. Maybe it's them talking about you or your product or some other goal. But the reality, Will, is that most people suck at writing. I'm a math computer science major. How good is my writing? I don't know. I think it's improved over time. I think I have a lot of original ideas, but I don't enjoy writing. And I think that I'd have to argue that at least half of your audience don't enjoy writing as well. Or even if they did, it takes a lot of time. So if you want a recipe to build your brand and grow your network, number one is you go out and build an identity. So you set up an identity in all the places that you think make sense. But I'll tell you what, if you stop at LinkedIn, you're in big trouble, because LinkedIn is your resume. It's like walking in somebody's lobby. You want to really know Jon Ferrara, go look at my Instagram. You're going to learn more in 5 seconds by looking at the pictures of my passion, plan, and purpose than you will in looking at the resume about what I've built or what I've done on a business level. And ultimately, you need multiple points of information to get a complete picture, almost like a point on a map. You need longitude, latitude, and altitude to find a person on the globe. And so in social, I have identities in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Foursquare, Google+, Crunchbase, AngelList, etc. And so what you want to do is get a good name, so a URL that people can remember. So mine's Jon Ferrara in most places. And then a great picture that shows your eyes and your face, that maybe the background's a little bit out of focus, so that they can see your soul, because you see people's heart and soul through their eyes and their face. And then put a picture behind that that's a little bit of your passion. If you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see a picture of the ocean, and I happen to be a photographer, so I put up a lot of my pictures as well. Once you have identities up, then what you want to do is curate content in around the areas of your passion, plan, and purpose. And don't just stop at business. You want to also share your passion, plan, and purpose in life as well. So on a regular basis, across all my identities in the appropriate way, in appropriate places, I share content to inspire and educate other people so that they reach out and connect to me. So I don't have to cold call anybody. People call me because they see that I'm inspiring and educating them in these areas that they're interested in. And so to build the Nimble brand, what I did was identify the top thought leaders in sales, marketing, social media, startups, entrepreneurship, et cetera. And I began to share their content with the appropriate hashtags, et cetera. And basically what that did is people bid on that, and I reeled them in with the platform I built called Nimble. And then the people that shared that content, that created the content, reached out and said, thank you. And then I basically reached back out and said, well, you're welcome. I really dig your content because this, that, and the other thing. Can we connect for a conversation? So then what happens is I have relationships that are being developed with the influencers, with the prospects, and all of a sudden, I'm generating 70,000 unique visitors per month on our website without any advertising, and closing about 10% of those to trials and 20% to paid without salespeople. And you could do all that if you share the right content, and all that content's easily available out there in the river.
Definitely. And I want to bring this back into CRM in a second. And this, I want to talk about the evolution of CRM and how it's changed and the importance for the individual salesperson listening now. Because if I wanted to sell to you, John, and we never we tend to go more or less directly than this at the moment when we're doing the brand partnerships and all that kind of thing. But how the heck would I have everything that you've just talked about on note cards and keep it in sync, and it'd be all over the place and it'd be crazy? So that's what I want to come on to the CRM side of things now, because obviously CRMs have developed alongside social. And what are the implications of that now for obviously a CEO of a CRM company? Is that the priority, to be pulling in this data and giving and making life easier for the salesperson? Has that been the goal all along?
Well, let's just start out with why I built the first gold mine. So when I built Goldmine, I was struggling with managing my contacts, tracking my conversations, and tracking my activities, nurturing my prospects to stay top of mind, and to manage the pipeline of potential and closed business. Now, there was no term SFA, CRM, or market automation. I had to essentially invent that. And what I did is I looked around and said, what are the business I have? And the business signals I had was I had a network scheduling program we used at the office and an email program we used at the office. But the emails I was sending and the calendar activities I was scheduling weren't tied to a contact record. So there was no program on the market that integrated contact, calendar, and communication. So Goldmine was the first networkable business app that integrated contact, calendar, and communication into a networkable platform for the whole company. And it wasn't about CRM or prospects. It was about everybody in the company being on the same page with the people that we're interacting with. So that's the beginning. And it wasn't about management reporting as much as it was about helping the customer-facing business team members to be able to bring up any contact and see the context, the history of email and calendar interactions that anybody in the team has done or anybody's going to do. And that keeps you on one page. So when you pick up the phone, you're more intelligent with the person and you can follow up and follow through. And ultimately, that's what CRMs fail at, is really empowering the customer-facing business team members to be effective. So the reality is that today, CRMs really should stand for customer reporting management, not customer relationship management, because they're really designed for management reporting. They don't really help the customer-facing business team member get anything done. And I'm going to argue the reason they call it Salesforce is that you have to force salespeople to use it. Nobody in their right mind would use a CRM if they weren't beat on to do it. In fact, I'll tell you, Will, I know every single thought leader in sales, marketing, and CRM, and none of them use a CRM. So what does that tell you? In fact, I'll even go further. There's 225 million global businesses. Less than 1% use any CRM. Most people's CRM is their inbox or a spreadsheet. So if that's true, then most people's CRM is Outlook, Address Book, or Google Contacts. So let's just stay right there. So you, I assume, use Google Apps, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you don't work by yourself, right? You have a team.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So basically, your CRM is Google Apps for work, and you have your contacts, your email, and your calendar. Do you ever go to Google Contacts?
No.
Do you know why?
I've never even looked at it. It could be fantastic, but I'm assuming it's not.
Okay. So if you go to your Google Contact record, there's no context or insights. In other words, there's no history of interactions for you or your team on email or calendar. Now, do you think that's a problem that you don't have the history of interactions with a contact record that's basically designed for business people?
For sure. We might be slightly different in that. Oh, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, because this is obviously a business question. But we are small enough that the communication between us is generally that tight that context isn't written down. But having said that, as soon as someone's on holiday, all hell breaks loose.
Exactly. So basically, imagine if you had a relationship platform that worked for you by building itself from the signals you have in your business, which are the contacts you're connecting to, the emails that you're sending and receiving, and the activities that you're scheduling. Then, if somebody is in the office and you bring up that record, you have complete context and history and pending of everything, and that is what a CRM should do for you automatically, is build the database for you, because 60% of your sales time is wasted looking people up and logging who they are and logging what you did. In reality, most people don't even do that. So the reason I got into relationship management to start is that I, as a business person, needed help. And I needed help with managing my contact calendar communication and my market automation and my sales automation. I couldn't find it, so I built it. I ran that company for 10 years and I sold it when I was 39 years old. I retired for 8 years and raised 3 babies. And I'll tell you what, Will, I learned more about relationships, learned more about myself in those 8 years than I did in the previous 40. And it was fantastic. I highly recommend doing that. But I also started swimming the social river in 2006, 7, and 8. And I saw how it's going to change the customer journey, how we build our brands and grow our networks, and how it's going to really transform the ways we interact personally and professionally. And I started to look for a relationship manager that integrated this social stuff to contacts. I couldn't find it. Then I started looking at CRM systems and saw they weren't about relationships. They really were about reporting. And I looked at the contact tools and I saw they really weren't good contact tools because they don't integrate email, calendar, and contacts. And so if you go to your Google Cal and you see I'm appointment with Jon Ferrara, well, who's Jon Ferrara? What's the history? What's happened? You go to my email and see an email I sent you or you sent me. What's the history of conversations? I might have 4 emails. In fact, I have probably 7 of them. And you don't have a history of all those conversations. And then most importantly, you need insights. We started out our conversation talking about interesting areas of our passion, plan, and purpose. The T-shirt you wore, your background as a chemist, and these things were discovered through the insights that I derived by nimbling you. And so I believe that the future relationship platform should empower the business person that's connecting with other business people by automatically building itself from the data that's all around them, their email, calendar, and contacts, by automatically Googling them and bringing in the insights about them and their company. Because for you to serve another human being, you need to understand who they are and what their business is about, and then keep that up to date on a daily basis and work with you wherever you work. Because if you're working in your CRM, you're not working where you're engaging with customers. And for most people today, that's email and social and on the phone and mobile on the go. And so that's why we've built a platform that works for you everywhere you work, to give you context and insights to let you take authentic and relevant action everywhere.
And Jon, being a visionary, and you've obviously got this right at this moment, how do you see all this changing in 5 years' time, and 5 years specifically?
I think that
And I'm putting you on the spot here,
I
obviously.
think that everybody's going to be doing what we're doing today, and we're going to be doing something further than this tomorrow. So if you think about what Nimble started with is by basically reimagining relationship management by automatically building the database for you and then working with you wherever you work.
Mhm.
I believe what we're evolving into is a simply smarter social sales and marketing system, because sales and marketing should have never been split apart. And
Uh-huh.
that today, for you to build a sales stack for your company, what you need to do is you need to somehow generate content to get eyeballs and then you need to have a website to convert those eyeballs into a lead. And then you got to put them in a market automation system to nurture them. Then you got to put them in a CRM so your sales rep can go get them. And then you got to arm your sales reps with sales intelligence tools and email tracking, sales enablement tools to do the hand-to-hand combat. And it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of complexity. And so if you start looking at market automation systems, they're going to cost you $10,000 to $30,000 a year. Then it's going to cost you $60,000 a year to pay somebody to run it. Then you
Mhm.
basically have to go buy a CRM, which is going to cost you $50 to $150 a month for a platform per sales rep. And then you're going to have to go buy sales intelligence things like Inside View or LinkedIn Sales Navigator for $50, $100 a rep. Then you got to buy some sort of email tracking tool like ToutApp or Yesware or something like that for $50 a rep. And then you got to teach everybody how to use it. And I think there's too many tools. You're being cut by 1,000 cuts, and that there should be a single platform that does it better, smarter, faster. And that's where we're going. So basically, Nimble is a database that you can take any bit of information that you have on anyone, which is either an email, a name, or a social handle that you get from a lead from your website, from a lead from your professional social identities, that you get from your personal identities, or that you rip from an article you see in Forbes. And we
Yeah.
take that name, we bring it into the system, we automatically map their background on them and their company. We bring the data down on their background. So we keep that up to date on a daily basis because a database needs data. And so if Nimble automatically maps somebody's background and the company background and brings the data down, you can segment the database based off who somebody is and what their business is about and the status of connection with you, your team, and your brand. At that point, you could then message them authentically and relevantly. So rather than saying, "Hey, Will, thanks for signing up for Nimble," I could say, "Hey, Will, as a thought leader in sales and marketing, I think you're going to understand the power of Nimble and what it could do for your relationships. What I'd love to do is see how we can help you grow so you can then help your community grow." And that can be done if you understand and have the data to begin to message somebody in a one-to-one way. And if you message them effectively, it'll cut through the noise, which means they will react to it, which means you can measure that and then have a human get involved to engage, because the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And so I think that Nimble is evolving into a new way of engaging with the community around your business. And I say community because it's not just prospects and customers you should be connecting with, and not just sales and marketing people that do the connecting. At Nimble, to grow our company, we connect with editors, analysts, bloggers, influencers, third-party developers, investors, advisors, and prospects and customers, and everybody in the company is participating in that. So your future relationship manager should be used by everybody in the company. What do you think of that?
And John, in 5 years, do you think that there's going to be unequivocal and crazy amounts of data available, or and people will just live open lives, which is what we're leading to now? Or do you think there's going to be a massive backlash, and I guess smaller niche private closed social networks are going to take over from the giants that are there at the moment?
I think that there'll be a continual explosion of specialized networks. Like if you think about GitHub for programmers, there's similar things for all different types of professional identities. That it won't just be LinkedIn for professional identities, and won't just be Facebook for connections. I mean, my kids don't do Facebook; they do Snapchat
Hmm.
and Instagram, and so I think there'll be a continuing evolution of platforms, and that's why I don't think that any one company can build one dashboard that accesses everything. And that's why we built Nimble, so it works in all these places. So if you use Nimble in any place you're at, whether it's your social places like Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or whether it's other business apps like your sales, marketing, customer service, or accounting programs, Nimble can add context and insights for more effective engagement everywhere you are, and even provide a common contact record for your entire team in all these places. Because right now you have islands of information in sales, marketing, customer service, accounting, and social in your companies. So basically, when you bring up a record in your CRM, you don't have the context of the history of stuff that happened in the accounting system or the customer service program, or even on social or email and calendar with that person. And I think that Nimble can evolve to be that universal record. But if you're asking me, do I think that we're going to get more closed because there'll be some sort of a hiccup
Yeah, like
because of
socially
social?
across the planet, do you think that this is just leading to? And I'm asking you this because you're obviously a bright guy, John, and I want to get your insights as opposed to the corporate brain that perhaps is on of obviously people are being surveilled a lot more. The what the government are doing, rightly or wrongly, and everyone has their own opinions, and I don't want to talk about that, but there's a lot of more data being stored on people than what people probably recognize. Do you think that we've just come too far? Everything's going to be open. All the conversations are generally within reason will be open. And so obviously for Nimble, you'll be able to pull that information in and use it and leverage it to enable salespeople and other professionals um, to make those connections and make better connections? Or do you think that at some point there's going to be a backlash? And I'm intrigued because social and sales, it seems like it's almost very close to being a golden age where you can find out so much about a prospect before you connect with them that as long as you're being congruent and as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and you're not trying to manipulate or overly influence someone, you can jump in and build rapport with someone really quickly. I'm just intrigued as to whether you think this is going to go on and continue or whether you think that this is going to change dramatically in the not too distant future.
Well, I'm sure that there will be hiccups that happen because of social media where people will say, this happened because of that, and we can't do this anymore. But I think that that will wash over and that we'll just get on with it. If you go back 100 years, Will, we were all a small town
Hmm.
and everybody knew everything about everyone. They knew when you went to the bathroom. They knew who you were sleeping with. They knew what was going on in your business. And I think that social is basically making the world a small town. And I think that's good because I think transparency is a positive thing. Um, the reality is social is not really new. Business and life has always been social. People buy from
Yeah.
people they like, and they like people who know them. And um, and I think that uh, that social business has always been social. You mean back in the day we took people to the club, we took people home, we took them to ball games,
Uh-huh.
we got to know them, and ideally you're doing business with friends. And so I love to see the people I'm associated with in business, what's going on in their lives, and to share these things with them. I think it's a natural human trait and aspect. So, will things happen because of the openness of social? Yes. Is the government using our social stuff to F with us? Yes. Um, is it right? No. Um, and so I think that the reality, though, is that people love the personalization that occurs because of what they've opened up about themselves and how they can be served. And I think that it will continue. I can't see how we're all going to get all closed up and get all private.
Good stuff. I agree. And as I said, I just wanted to get your voice on that as a visionary because I don't see, I just see things getting more and more open. And then it becomes to the point where, as you alluded to before, of when you screw up, whereas perhaps in the past you might have been able to hide it a bit better, you have to just come to terms with it, get it out there because it's going to become public anyway. And with that, John, and slightly off target, off track, but excellent conversation, I've got one final question to ask everyone that comes on the show. And that is if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, the young John, what's the one piece of advice you'd give him to help him become a better salesperson?
Be present with other human beings. Listen to them. go into any engagement with the intent of serving them and helping them grow, even if it means recommending a competitor's product. I think that we're on this planet to grow our souls and help other people grow theirs. And we do that by being present with other human beings. And I think there is no profession in the world that's more powerful in helping other people grow than sales. And I think that there's nothing more fantastic than engaging um, with a authentic and relevant, honest salesperson that's a professional that's there to serve you and help you grow. I mean, you've had that engagement before, haven't you, Will?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a big difference. And so I think that if you could be truly present with another human being and do your homework before the meeting, ask relevant questions, shut up and listen, they will tell you everything you need to know to serve them. And even if it doesn't mean you selling them something that day, if you could build that trust and intimacy in the future, they will not only call you when they need your products and services, but they'll drag their friends with them.
John, do you meditate?
I have.
Do you think that's of benefit to salespeople in general, but in the context of, I find that a lot of salespeople, and I've done it myself, you will have done as well, I'm sure. The traffic's rubbish, you're rushing around, you're late for your meeting, you get there, you're sweating, you've got your pitch, your presentation doesn't go quite well, and so you're not present because you're worrying about all these kind of things. Me personally, and not from a woo-woo perspective, we talked before the show, my background is chemistry, chemistry and computer science actually, but there's loads of research from that perspective and the biology perspective that meditation restructures physically your brain. There's no hippie nonsense, although it's associated with it, it shouldn't be. Do you think that a meditation practice or a practice of when you get out the car before your sales meeting, you just have a couple of minutes to just get present and refocus yourself on what the task is at hand? Do you think that's a useful tool for salespeople?
Absolutely. But the thing is, I think when you talk about meditation, I think that 80% of the world out there think about hippie shit, and they think that you might be oming and stuff,
Yeah.
I think people always relate to stories better, and so let's talk about athletes and visualization instead of meditation, right?
Mhm.
So do you think the world's best athletes visualize themselves going down that slalom track in the snow or the racetrack in the race, the real winners? What do you think, Will?
Mhm. Yeah, well, we've had an Olympic athlete on the show to talk about visualization very specifically. So yeah, of course.
And do you know, Will, I beat cancer through visualization.
From the same perspective as you
Yeah.
just described.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly I went through all the Western medicine stuff and did the diet and all the things that you need to do to fight it. But I think that there's power in visualization and
Mhm.
bringing your mind and body together. And so, does visualization, meditation, is it a benefit to salespeople? Yes. But I want to get back to what you said when you get out of the car and you get in there and you do your pitch. Will, and I'm going to fry you on this.
Yep. Well, I use that example specifically.
Yeah. Uh, Stop talking about your products and services. Nobody cares. They care about themselves. Help other people become better, smarter, faster. Don't pitch. Don't sell. Serve. Ask questions. Figure out solutions. Help people grow. And so if you're in sales, stop pitching. Stop selling. Start serving.
John, awesome stuff. With that, tell us where we can find out more about Nimble, more about you, if you've got any links you want to share. And yeah, we'll wrap up the show from there, mate.
Cool. So Nimble is just like it sounds, nimble.com. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. And if you go up to Nimble, make sure that you not only sign up for Nimble, but load our browser plugin and our mobile app. Our new mobile app automatically reads your calendar and your phone book and builds a smart agenda profile on anybody you're meeting with and preps you before a meeting. My Twitter handle is Jon _ Ferrara, like Ferrari, but with an A, FERRARA. Follow me on Twitter. Reach out to me. Let me know how I can help you grow. I I dig powering people. I dig building products that help people reach their dreams. So let us know how we can help you.
Fantastic stuff. And with that, Jon, we got deep there at the end, which I enjoy. And I want to thank you for that, sharing your insights. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on the Salesman Podcast.
I appreciate the invite, Will.
And there we have it. I just want to thank, as always, our guest Jon for coming on the show. I appreciate it, mate. I appreciate you sharing some of your more personal stories with us in this episode. You can learn more about Jon and everything he does and over at nimble.com. It's an exciting piece of software. I'm looking forward to diving into it more myself. With that said, I'll speak to you, the listener, again tomorrow.